AITA for inviting my boyfriend to a game night. I'll try to keep it short, but I'm still getting crap for this from my family, so I figured to share it here and get some opinions. Basically, my church was having a game night and we were told that we could bring some friends. I asked my parents to invite the people from my friends group chat and they said if the leaders at church agreed then it was no problem. We have a big group chat with my boyfriend and all our friends. So I texted the group chat and asked if anyone wanted to come with me and explained that it was chill game night. A few had plans and others said maybe but not for sure. My BF and one other person said they were free to go. The day of came and my BF showed up but the other person cancelled due to a family emergency. No one else could go. Everything was good and I introduced him to everyone and the leaders as a friend because I like to keep my life private. My BF is very understanding of that. We kept it cool and didn't even hold hands or go off somewhere by ourselves. We were just behaving as friends. We all had a great time. At the end of the night, I called my parents and they couldn't pick me up due to them working night shift, so they asked me to find someone who would be able to take me home or if absolutely necessary call my aunt who just came back from work that was almost 2 hours away to pick me up. I asked around if anyone was able to take me home and everyone either had a full car or was going the opposite way. My BF offered to drive me because he was heading in the same direction and I said okay. He dropped me off and I said thank you and I called my parents to let them know that I found a ride and we moved on with our life. A couple days later during service, my dad asked one of my leaders at church who drove me home so he could say thank you and they told them that a friend I had brought with was nice enough to drive me when they all couldn't. Their exact words, my parents got really mad that a person of the opposite gender drove me home and I didn't tell them. I didn't because I didn't think it was a big deal. I don't under why it was such a big deal anyways. I'm not the only one who literally gets rides from people of the opposite gender. Most of the people there have BFS/GFS and they come together all the time. We literally drove straight home and he knew where I lived because he came over a few times before. They said I embarrassed them by doing that and I was completely in the wrong and forced me apologize. My mom cried for a few days saying that she doesn't know who I am because I'm not the daughter she raised. I don't think I did anything wrong in this situation, but it's been a few months and it's still being brought up by literally my parents, cousins, and aunts, so now I'm not too sure. Edit, I'm 18 and BF is 19 about to be 20. Also, my parents have met him and he's been over to our house a few times. Edit 2, I'm a woman smile. OMG, you were alone with a boy, in a car, without a chaperone? What would people think? Actually, the only ones making this a 19th century drama are your parents. NTA. What if they held hands? Who's going to raise the baby? The shame! Exclamation mark. What makes this extra special is the top and the BF are both adults. NTA, your mother sounds like she needs some help if she reacted as described. She reacts like that to every situation where she believes I did something wrong. NTA, your family is out of their minds. If they actually were good parents, they would have trusted that they raised you well enough to do the right thing by their standards. It's their own fault for dropping you off somewhere knowing they'd be working the night shift and couldn't pick you up. Counting on some random good person to drive you home was completely irresponsible. This is some weird purity bullshit. Up there afraid you're going to have sex. This is nonsense. Ignore your parents as best as is practical and Natar. NTA. I'm wondering what your mom's preferred option would have been. For you to be stranded there? For you to attempt to walk home alone? That was exactly my point, because it's too far away to walk home, like 3 to 4 hours walking, and the building is in a bad area, so as a woman I don't feel comfortable being there by myself. AITA for making someone pay, literally, because of a prank. I need to give some context before the actual story. I, 24F, have driving anxiety. I learned driving because I really needed to be able to drive so I could bring my parents who can't around once my older sister moved away. Since I get stressed pretty easily, I just stick to routes I'm familiar with and it's worked out fine for me for the last 5 years. I'm a safe driver except for the fact that I just stress while driving, so nobody is at risk here. I drive to work since it's not otherwise accessible by public transport, and recently, a mutual friend K, 26M, who lives near me started working near where I work as well. K doesn't have a car, so he asked if he could hitch a ride with me to work since the company doesn't give probation employees a transport allowance. If he didn't hitch a ride with me, he'd have to pay $5 to $7 to get a cab to work from the nearest train station or walk for a fairly long distance. I was happy to help him out since it's literally almost the same route I take, but I did warn him not to judge me when I'm driving cause well, I get stressed out. One day when we were going to work, I'd to sort of squeeze in between two cars to move forward because there was a roadblock. I was fine, but while I was driving, he suddenly gripped his seat and said something like, "Oh shit op, you're about to scratch the car on the left," and obviously I panicked and braked, and when I did he laughed and said, "No, I'm kidding, you're good." I already told him that day not to do shit like that again because it just causes me panic. But a week ago when we're driving to work, he did something even worse. I normally drive with the auto hold on, which means when I take my foot off the brake the car doesn't move forward. It's NBD whether it's on or off to me, but Kay turned it off when I was driving. The button is in the center, and so when I took my foot off, the car inched forward and I was not amused. He did apologize, but I just can't get over it personally. After that incident, I asked him to find another way to get to work because I didn't want to drop him anymore, but obviously this means he has to pay at least $5 per day to get to work, so it'll literally cost him about $90 per month, so he was super pissed that I'm taking things this far. My boyfriend, who knows Kay, also agrees that I'm really overreacting, and since Kay apologized I should let it slide. I'm not sure if I'm overreacting in this situation because I'm naturally a bit stressed when it comes to driving, so AITA for not dropping Kay anymore and costing him money. NTA, you asked. You gave fair warning. Now there is a consequence. Your car, your rules. Drive safe G. NTA. Apologies are not free passes to continue doing the same shitty thing over and over again. Kay is suffering from the consequences of his own actions. He was warned and still chose to do it. If you take him back in the car he will do it again. The only way he can learn is to face consequences. The fact that he whined to your BF shows that he thinks you should fall in line if the person he considers your handler intervenes. Also UBF is an AIF for trying to persuade you. I never considered that part about him whining to the BF. He's actually soon to be ex-BF, but that's another story that'll most likely be worthy of the nuclear revenge subreddit. Thanks for that perspective. NTA. Doesn't matter if you have driving anxiety or not. You shouldn't mess around if someone is focused on driving. End of. Yes. What sort of grown adult pranks someone while driving? Kay sounds like an ass and I wouldn't be doing him any favors. NTA. NTA. Regardless of anxiety, you don't fuck with people when they're driving. It's a safety issue. I wouldn't drive him either, and I'm very comfortable driving. I second this. Never ever screw with the person on the wheel. It can be dangerous and it's stressful as hell to have concentration broken even if nothing happens. I've literally kicked someone out of my car mid-route because of this. Don't care if someone calls me and are overdoing that. Safety first. AITA for calling my fiancée entitled over a dispute over wedding planning. I just got engaged to Anna and we are in the very early stages of wedding planning. We can afford to pay for it ourselves, but it will be a small DIY wedding. I knew that my parents were going to offer to pay because I'm the last to get married and they paid for both of my siblings. Anna and I have talked about my parents' money before and mutually decided that when they offer to buy us a house, not trying to be an entitled ass, but they bought both of my siblings a house, we are going to decline because it comes with strings attached. My mom drops by whenever she wants. My mom makes executive parenting decisions for my sister and Sil, and Anna and I don't want that. We had dinner with my parents recently and my dad offered us $70,000 for the wedding. I saw Anna's eyes light up. I asked what the strings would be and my dad said we would have to let my mom help plan, invite a certain number of their friends, make sure the food included things they liked, and if he was spending that sort of money it wasn't just for us. His wife better be happy. I told Anna it was her call. Anna got upset and said no to the conditions, which I was fine with. Anna then said my parents are selfish, which okay, fair enough. Then she started to beg for the $70,000 without the strings. My dad said that was out of the question. She kept it up, so I changed the subject. The next morning she told me she was going to call my mom and try to convince her to drop the conditions. I told her that she was being entitled and they have the right to give conditions. I wouldn't personally do it, but I think it is their right. Told her that if she called my mom it would embarrass me because of the entitledness. She now thinks I'm on their side and she is deeply hurt that I used the word entitled because she prides herself on being a hard worker. She begged for the money, not for something critical but for a wedding. She embarrassed herself, and you, and sounds entitled. NTA. They have the money and they're stating the terms up front. I don't think much of the way your parents manage relationships with their adult children, but repeating the request this many times isn't appropriate, either. She heard the terms, she offered alternate terms, they are unwilling to negotiate, end of matter. I've seen several like this post before, but I think it's the first time the parents clearly listed the strings ahead of time. At least you know exactly what you'd be agreeing to. Natar. NTA, I think you are correct that she is acting entitled. I'm so glad you recognize that your parents' money comes with strings. Also, it seems your parents are very upfront with what they expect should you accept their money. I feel like this is totally fair. No one is trying to trick you into taking the money, then making demands. If she wants the super expensive wedding, totally a waste emo, then she has to accept that she will no longer be in charge of it. You mother will be. NTA, this does come across a little entitled. It's not her $70,000, and whilst I do think your parents are a bit extreme by offering you money with such extreme conditions, your fiancé shouldn't be calling your parents demanding they give you money. It's even worse that you'd already discussed exactly this in the past and agreed not to take the money.